So that's how it is. But the truth is, when you receive the power of the Holy Spirit and you start walking truly close with God, it is a privilege that is given to everybody. If God is your father, you should be able to hear him.
Prophet Lovy Elias, the Kenyan-born pastor who rose from African music royalty to become one of America's most recognizable prophetic voices, built a ministry that inspired millions with messages of faith, healing, and hope. But now, health scares, explosive allegations, and a legal battle threatening everything he has built have cast a shadow over his once unshakable image. So, is this the downfall of a spiritual leader, or another storm he will survive? How did it all come to this? This is the story that captivated believers and critics alike worldwide. The boy raised between fame and faith. Lovy Elias, born Lovy Longomba Jr., on November 25, 1985, in Nairobi, Kenya, entered the world with a legacy few could have imagined. Long before his name would become associated with prophecy, packed church services, and global audiences, he was part of a family already celebrated across Africa for its extraordinary contribution to music. In many ways, the spotlight had been waiting for him since birth. He was raised in a Christian home shaped by both Kenyan and Congolese traditions, where faith and creativity coexisted. Music was not simply entertainment in the Longomba household, it was a way of life. The sounds of rehearsals, instruments, and stories of performances formed the soundtrack of his childhood. His father, Lovy Longomba Sr., was a respected musician and a member of the legendary Congolese band Orchestra Super Mazembe, a group admired by fans across East Africa. His grandfather, Vicky Longomba, was one of the founding members of the iconic TPOK Jazz Orchestra, a band that helped redefine African music for generations. His uncle, Awilo Longomba, would later become one of the continent's most famous soukous stars, adored by audiences around the world. Growing up in such a family, many assumed Lovy's future had already been written. It seemed only natural that he would follow the path of music, fame, and performance. But according to Lovy, there was another calling on his life that reached far beyond concert stages and applause. He has often shared that when he was just 6 years old, he experienced a life-changing vision of Jesus Christ. In that encounter, he says he was given a divine assignment to become a prophet and raise what he described as people of fire across nations. To some, it sounded extraordinary. To others, difficult to understand. But for young Lovy, it became the defining moment of his life. Surrounded by a family that encouraged both faith and spiritual growth, he grew up believing he had been set apart for a purpose much greater than fame, success, or recognition. Even as music opened doors before him, he carried the conviction that his true destiny was still waiting to unfold. Lovy Elias grew up in a family that was deeply rooted in music rather than Christianity alone. But would he deviate from that musical path to embrace evangelism fully? Or would he first follow the path his family was already known for? And if he did, how far would he go in music before stepping into ministry? Let's find out. Before the pulpit. Even though Lovy Elias had grown up believing that God had a special purpose for his life, the world first came to know him for something entirely different. Before the sermons, prophetic declarations, and packed church services, he was a rising music star with dreams of entertaining audiences across the globe. As a teenager, Lovy joined forces with his older brother, Christian Longomba, to form the dynamic musical duo known as the Longombas. Drawing from their rich Congolese heritage, they blended the infectious rhythms of soukous with Kenya's fast-growing urban sound, creating a style that felt fresh, energetic, and impossible to ignore. Their chemistry as brothers, combined with their natural stage presence, quickly won the hearts of music lovers throughout East Africa. Their breakthrough came with the release of the hit single Dondosa. The song became an instant sensation, dominating airwaves, filling dance floors, and transforming the brothers into household names almost overnight. Suddenly, they were no longer just talented young musicians from Nairobi. They had become celebrities. Fans sang their lyrics, imitated their dance moves, and eagerly followed every step of their journey. The success continued with the release of their debut album, Chukwa. The project earned widespread praise and brought with it some of the region's highest honors. The Longombas received the prestigious 2005 Kora Award for Best East African Group, followed by the 2006 Kisima Music Award for Best Group. They performed on major stages, traveled to international events, and appeared destined for a long and prosperous career in entertainment. From the outside, it looked like Lovy had everything a young artist could dream of: fame, recognition, admiration, and an exciting future. Yet behind the applause and flashing lights, another struggle quietly unfolded within him. The spiritual calling he believed had been placed on his life since childhood refused to fade into the background. Everything shifted when he relocated to Los Angeles in 2007. Slowly, music performances gave way to deeper spiritual pursuits. Few could have imagined that the young man who once energized crowds with hit songs would one day stand before congregations around the world speaking about prophecy, faith, and transformation instead of music and fame. Lovy Elias first explored the music world and achieved great success along that path. But was music simply his bridge to evangelism, or did he continue pursuing other projects before fully stepping into ministry? If so, what did he explore, and how successful was he in those areas? Now, let's explore the turning point that transformed Lovy Elias into a global prophetic voice. From Grammy-nominated producer to global prophet. When Lovy Elias moved to Los Angeles in 2007, it marked the beginning of a completely new phase in his life. He had already experienced fame in Africa, but now he was stepping into the heart of the global entertainment world, where competition was fierce and opportunities were both massive and demanding. Instead of staying in front of the camera like he once did as a performer, Lovy chose a quieter path behind the scenes. He began working as a songwriter and music producer, shaping songs for other artists rather than performing them himself. From studios in Los Angeles, he contributed to projects connected to well-known international musicians, slowly building a reputation in the American music industry. His talent eventually led to a breakthrough. He received a Grammy nomination for his work on Iggy Azalea's hit song, Change Your Life, a moment that confirmed he was operating at a high level in the global music space. For many people, this would have been the peak of success, a dream career built on influence, creativity, and recognition. But even at that height, Lovy later explained that something deeper was happening within him. While his career was rising, he felt a strong inner conviction that his life was meant for something beyond music and fame. According to him, he believed God was calling him to step away from the industry entirely and surrender everything he had worked for. In 2013, after spending years quietly mentoring celebrities, athletes, and individuals seeking guidance, he made a bold decision. He started a small prayer gathering inside his living room. There were no large crowds at first, no big stage, and no global attention. Just a simple space where people came together to pray, learn, and seek spiritual direction. That small beginning would later grow into something far bigger than anyone could have expected. It eventually became Revelation Church of Jesus Christ, a ministry centered on prophecy, healing, deliverance, and spiritual teaching. What began as a small home prayer meeting quickly grew into a powerful global movement. Week after week, hundreds gathered in person, while thousands more joined online from different countries. Lovy Elias, once known for music, rose into a widely recognized prophetic voice, leading a fast-growing spiritual platform beyond Los Angeles. Beyond Lovy Elias's journey into songwriting and music production, which earned him a Grammy nomination before he fully embraced evangelism, how far did his ministry expand, and what challenges came with such enormous growth? Now, let's dive into the weight of modern ministry. From rising influence to growing pressure. As Revelation Church continued to expand, the weight on Lovy Elias's shoulders also grew heavier. What started as a small prayer group had now become a fast-growing global ministry, reaching people far beyond Los Angeles. Through social media platforms, daily devotional messages like Daily Power Shot, live prophetic sessions, large conferences, and constant international travel, Lovy was no longer seen as just a local pastor. To many of his followers, he had become a spiritual father figure, someone they looked up to for guidance, direction, and answers to deeply personal struggles. People from different parts of the world reached out to him every day. Some were dealing with sickness. Others were facing broken relationships, financial stress, fear, or confusion about life. Many believed that a word from him could bring hope or even change their situation. With this level of attention, his ministry grew not just in size, but also in emotional weight. However, behind the public image of strength and inspiration, the reality was far more demanding. Every sermon was followed by long hours of counseling. Every prophetic message was followed by countless prayer requests. Every public appearance brought new expectations. The emotional burden of carrying so many people's problems became part of his daily life. At the same time, the pressure of being constantly available never seemed to stop. In a world where everything was online and always visible, there was little space for rest, silence, or privacy. Like many modern spiritual leaders, Lovy was expected to always be strong, always be available, and always have answers. Even when he was tired or overwhelmed, the role he played required him to show up with energy and confidence. Over time, this created a silent pressure that few outside the ministry could truly see or understand. To his supporters, his growing influence was proof of divine blessing and favor. They believed his reach and impact were evidence that his calling was real and powerful. But to his critics, it reflected something different. A rising culture of celebrity-driven Christianity, where spiritual leaders carried the weight of fame as much as faith. The pressure of managing the ministry under Lovy Elias was constant and unrelenting. But how heavy would that pressure become for him? Would he remain strong enough to hide it? Or would an incident eventually expose what he had been carrying all along? Now, let's unravel the moment in Revelation Church that turned celebration into fear. From powerful worship to sudden silence. The atmosphere inside Revelation Church in Los Angeles had been full of life and expectation. Worshippers filled the sanctuary with praise, singing, and lifting their voices as they prepared for another powerful Sunday service. Many had come hoping to hear a message of hope, healing, and direction from the well-known prophet whose teachings had reached people far beyond the walls of the church. Everything seemed normal at first, but then something unexpected happened. As Lovy Elias stood at the pulpit, those closest to the front began to notice a change. His voice, usually strong and full of energy, started to sound different. It grew softer, less steady. His usual confidence seemed to fade in small but visible moments. At first, some people thought it was just a pause, something he often used to emphasize a deep spiritual point or allow the message to sink in. But this time, the silence continued longer than usual. A sense of concern slowly spread through the room. The energy in the sanctuary shifted from excitement to confusion. Members of the pastoral team quickly moved toward the stage, sensing that something was not right. In the congregation, people began to pray out loud, some with shaking voices, others already in tears, as fear quietly settled in. Within moments, the situation became more serious. Lovy appeared weak, and those around him stepped in to support him as the service took an unexpected turn. What had started as a normal worship gathering suddenly became a moment of uncertainty and worry for everyone present. Phones came out as people began recording, and within minutes, short clips of the incident were circulating online. Social media platforms quickly picked up the story, turning a private church moment into a global discussion. Messages of prayer, shock, and concern spread rapidly across different countries. The incident raised difficult questions that went far beyond that single service. Had the pressure of years of nonstop ministry finally taken a toll? Was it exhaustion, stress, or something more serious happening behind the scenes? For many watching, both in the church and online, it became a powerful reminder that behind every strong voice and public image is still a human being, capable of weakness, vulnerability, and the need for care. Beyond Lovy's health, taking a toll on him before the pulpit and raising fear among his congregation and supporters, what exactly was the pastor accused of? How serious were the allegations, and was he able to defend himself? Now, let's uncover the allegations that shook Lovy Elias and split his global following. The devastating lawsuit. In November 2025, a woman identified in legal documents as Jane Doe filed a civil lawsuit in the Los Angeles County Superior Court against Lovy Elias and Revelation Church. The complaint contained serious allegations, including conduct, emotional manipulation, spiritual abuse, invasion of privacy, and misuse of pastoral authority. According to the filing, the situation allegedly began in an unexpected way. The woman had reportedly been sharing Lovy's sermons online and supporting his ministry content. The lawsuit claims that this connection later developed into a private relationship, where spiritual language was allegedly used in a deeply personal and influential way. It further states that promises of a shared future and spiritual direction were used to shape her decisions, including major life changes that affected her personal stability. The complaint also alleges that financial support and luxury gifts were provided during the relationship, creating a sense of dependence and emotional confusion. In addition, it claims that intimate images were shared without consent, raising further concerns about privacy and trust. Another serious part of the filing suggests that church leadership either knew about or failed to properly respond to the situation, raising questions about accountability within the ministry structure. Lovy Elias strongly denied all allegations and publicly described the claims as false and damaging. He referred to the lawsuit as defamatory and insisted that the accusations did not reflect the truth of what happened. As news of the case spread online and through media platforms, reactions were immediate and deeply divided. His supporters stood firmly by him, insisting that he was being targeted and that the situation was a form of spiritual attack meant to discredit his ministry and message. Many continued to express their faith in his leadership and called for prayer and patience. On the other hand, critics saw the allegations as part of a larger and more troubling pattern. They argued that the case raised serious questions about power, influence, and accountability in modern ministries, especially those led by high-profile spiritual figures with large and loyal followings. What followed was not just a legal dispute, but a growing public debate that placed Lovy Elias at the center of one of the most sensitive and closely watched controversies of his career. A woman filed a civil lawsuit in the Los Angeles County Superior Court containing serious allegations against Lovy Elias and Revelation Church. But how deeply could these allegations affect the pastor and the church he represents? Could this case mark the beginning of the end for the popular pastor and his ministry? Let's uncover the shocking details. The uncertain future of Lovy Elias and Revelation Church. As discussions grew louder across social media platforms, news outlets, and within faith communities around the world, the conversation around Lovy Elias reached a critical turning point. Opinions clashed, emotions ran high, and speculation spread quickly. But beneath all the noise, one question stood out above everything else, refusing to go away. What happens next? For his most devoted followers, this moment felt like more than just controversy. It became a test of faith, loyalty, and belief in a man they felt had spoken life, healing, and direction into their personal struggles. Many of them saw this period as a spiritual battle, a time to stand firm, pray, and remain connected to a leader they believed was still chosen for a greater purpose. To them, walking away was not an option, and doubt itself felt like a challenge to their faith. But for critics and outside observers, the situation looked very different. To them, it became a warning story about what can happen when powerful spiritual leaders gain influence without enough accountability. They questioned how much trust should be placed in any one person, especially when that person holds emotional, spiritual, and financial influence over large groups of people. For them, the unfolding events raised broader concerns about leadership, transparency, and responsibility in modern ministries. As the debate continued, more questions began to surface. Would Revelation Church be able to survive the pressure and public scrutiny, or would the controversy slowly weaken its foundation? Could Lovy Elias repair the damage to his public image and rebuild the trust of those who once looked to him as a spiritual guide? Or would future legal developments bring even more clarity, either clearing his name or confirming the allegations made against him? At this stage, no one had clear answers. Every new update only seemed to deepen the uncertainty, leaving both supporters and critics waiting for what would come next. Yet beyond the arguments and opinions, one truth was becoming clear. The story of Lovy Elias had already moved beyond a single moment or incident. It had become one of the most complex and debated narratives in modern ministry, a story filled with success, influence, doubt, faith, vulnerability, and unanswered questions that continue to linger. And perhaps the most difficult question of all remains, quietly echoing in the minds of many who have followed his journey from the beginning. Is this just the beginning of a chapter no one saw coming? So, what do you think about the allegations against Pastor Lovy Elias? Could they lead to the end of his ministry? We would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe.